And for more on this, we're going now to Brian Becker. He's the National Director of the Answer Coalition. Brian, always good to have you on set. So President Trump, unsurprisingly to many, had strong words for the 28 other NATO allies during a closed-door session, apparently. He allegedly went on this tirade, they say, singling out Germany, other allies as well, for falling short of their 2% GDP. I mean, we know about that from the campaign trail. The commitment isn't there, he says. He pushed for the commitment to be increased to 4%. Is this a reasonable ask if only 8 nation members are meeting their 2% minimums?
Well, there's several things to say about this. One, the 2% level that's demanded of the other NATO countries to spend from their GDP, that comes from President Obama. That was insisted upon by President Obama in 2014, and the other NATO ministers agreed to it. Let's face facts. NATO isn't really what it says it is. It says it's a defense alliance that has Article 5. If any one of the member states is attacked, all must come to the support of one, and one must come to the support of all.
Right.
That's what it says. But what it really does, when you look at the function of NATO 27 years after the fall of the Soviet Union, after the fall of the Warsaw Pact countries, you have NATO in Afghanistan. That's not the North Atlantic. You had in 2011 the destruction of Libya, also not the North Atlantic, in the Mediterranean. And then the destruction of the government of Yugoslavia by dropping 28,000 bombs and missiles in 1999. What NATO really is a fig leaf for the United States military actions when it wants to have the appearance of multilateralism. So for either Barack Obama or Donald Trump to say, look, we're defending you, but you have to pay more for your defense, it's a little bit silly, in fact, when in fact this is a U.S.-led military alliance to give the United States the instrument, a military machine that gives it the appearance of something other than direct U.S. military intervention in different places where the U.S. government wants to intervene.
It sounds like what you're saying is, regardless of the guise, the U.S. still wants everybody else to cough up more money.
Yes, and if every country in the NATO increased to 2%, that would be $132 billion more for war, for missiles, for bombs. It's not because Europe is on the verge of being invaded by Russia. That's not true. Russia has a military budget 1/10 the size of the United States budget, 7% the size of the NATO budget. Russia's not threatening NATO. What this really is, when you get down to it, $132 billion more, that's for American war contractors. That's a form of welfare for corporate capitalists in America who happen to produce weapons, missiles, bombs, and the rest.
That's certainly a chilling thought. Now, I'm glad you brought up Russia, because that's the other talk at NATO, right, is namely against the EU because of Russia, that President Trump accusing, again, Germany of being cowed by Russia because of their natural gas deal. Do you think that's a fair characterization?
Well, absolutely not. Of course, Germany wants to have good relations, political and economic relations with Russia. Why should it not? Why should the Germans, under pressure from Washington, which is already imposing sanctions on the German economy as well as the rest of the world, tariffs on all of them, why should Germany now say, no, let's take more expensive American energy resources that come from all the way around the rest of the world to satisfy Donald Trump's narcissistic demands? Of course, Germany wants to have Nord Stream 2. Of course, they want to get cheaper, more efficient energy resources from Russia. It's a natural trading partner. And then for Donald Trump to turn around and say to the Germans, see, you're the slave of Russia, you're the vassal of Russia. This is typical of the hyperbolic, exaggerated bluster and bluff of Donald Trump.
But now that's just days ahead of his first official summit that we're going to see in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin. What do you think all the talk will be about between them, those two, and what, if anything, are the NATO allies saying, do you think?
Well, again, Donald Trump is all bluster and bluff. He's attacking China right now. He's imposing sanctions. Then he says, but I have a great relationship with Xi Jinping, and I require him to help me in North Korea. He says to the Europeans, you have to pay more so we can defend you against Russia. Then he says they're actually slaves of Russia because they get energy resources. But now he's going to meet with Putin, who he says he wants better relations. This is bluster and bluff. Donald Trump, the only thing you can count on with Donald Trump is count on nothing. Count on him saying the exact opposite of what he said yesterday. And actually, I don't think Donald Trump cares.
Well, you know what, Brian? I would go as far as to say holy smokes, he's like every other politician that speaks out of both sides of their mouth. So.
Well, that's true, but it has a hyperbolic, extenuated position when it comes to Donald Trump.
Certainly a different style added to this.
Very different.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us.
My
Brian
pleasure.
Becker, National Director of the Answer Coalition.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.